Reporters are still shouting, asking Bridget if she has any plans to reclaim her throne in Tinseltown, but who actually walked away on purpose and who fought a losing war against the clock. These silver screen titans were once the untouchable royalty of cinema, gazing down from billboards and magazine covers. Today, you would likely walk right past them on the street without a second glance because fame is fleeting and faces transform in shocking ways. The reality check is absolutely devastating. This feature exposes the ruthless, unvarnished truth about vanity, the aging process, and the desperate struggle for survival in the meat grinder we call Hollywood. The 7th entry on this list is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Make sure you subscribe and stick around until the very last second. We start with number 1, the legendary Kim Novak. Kim Novak was never just another pretty face on a movie poster. She was a cultural phenomenon. Back in the 1950s, the studio system crowned her the ultimate icy blonde, a goddess placed on a pedestal high above the rest. She possessed the kind of breathtaking beauty that could bring a film reel to a screeching halt. From her haunting role in Vertigo to dozens of other classics, she was the definition of mystery high-class elegance and a dangerous kind of allure. But Hollywood is a beast with a very dark underbelly. As the decades rolled on, the same industry that worshipped her youthful glow began to quietly turn its back, looking for the next fresh face. However, Kim was not the type to fade into the background without a fight. She decided to push back against the dying of the light. When Father Time came banging on her door, she answered with invasive cosmetic procedures that left fans and critics gasping in horror. The headlines were merciless, the cameras were judgmental, and the internet trolls were absolutely savage. Now, well into her 90s, Kim Novak looks almost nothing like the stoic, statuesque beauty that cinema history remembers. And precisely that transformation is why her narrative is so critical. She survived the industry's toxic obsession with eternal youth, weathered the storm of public mockery, and eventually walked away entirely on her own terms. She offers no filters to hide behind, offers zero apologies for her choices, and asks for absolutely no permission to exist. Whether you adore her resilience or criticise her choices, Kim Novak laid bare a brutal reality that most stars are too afraid to admit. Hollywood refuses to forgive a woman for aging, yet she refused to just disappear into the ether. And that act of rebellion might be the most powerful role she has ever played. Coming in at number 2, Bridget Fonda. Bridget Fonda did not just inherit a spot in Hollywood royalty. She crashed the VIP party, stole every scene she was in, and then casually strolled out the back exit while the audience was still screaming for an encore. During the 1990s, you literally could not turn your head without seeing Bridget Fonda staring back at you. Swinging effortlessly from indie cool projects to massive mainstream blockbusters, she possessed that rare alchemy of razor-sharp intellect, quirky charm, and an effortless magnetic sex appeal. She was never your typical glossy fairy tale blonde bombshell. She was cooler, grittier, and smarter. Hollywood fell in love with her because she felt authentic and just a little bit dangerous. Then she delivered a plot twist that not a single studio executive saw coming or could have written into a script. Right at the absolute peak of her stardom, Bridget Fonda looked at the machine and said, "No thanks." There was no dramatic farewell tour, no scandal, and no tragic public meltdown. She simply stepped off the carousel, choosing privacy, raising a family, and embracing a mundane existence. It was the ultimate Hollywood taboo. The cameras kept hunting for her. The gossip rags kept speculating on her whereabouts, but she simply did not care. Years later, paparazzi snapshots surfaced that shocked a public expecting her to remain frozen in time. The internet collectively gasped and comment sections went into a panic, but Bridget never signed a contract promising to remain trapped in 1997 forever. She aged naturally, she changed physically, she actually lived a life. And that is the punchline that Hollywood just never understood. Bridget Fonda did not lose her stardom. She escaped it. In an industry that is terrified of women getting older, her quiet, unglamorous exit might just be the boldest performance of her entire career. Number 3, Anne-Margaret. Back in the swinging 1960s, Anne-Margaret was not merely a star, she was human dynamite. With red hair like a wildfire and energy that could not be contained, she didn't just walk onto a screen. She detonated. She sang louder, danced harder, and burned with more intensity than any of her peers. Elvis Presley had the swagger, but Anne Margaret had the danger. What truly terrified the Hollywood establishment wasn't her looks. It was her terrifying stamina. While other starlets were coasting on their glamour and soft lighting, she was out there working relentlessly, breaking a sweat. She was shooting movies while the sun was up, performing sold-out concerts at night and performing stunts that resulted in genuine injuries rather than fake publicity headlines. She wasn't manufactured. She was an unstoppable force of nature. Then came the terrifying moment that should have ended her career instantly, a near-fatal accident, a 22-foot fall that resulted in a broken jaw, broken arm, and months of agonising pain. The industry expected a total collapse. Instead, Anne Margaret vanished into the shadows, rebuilt herself piece by piece, and returned to the stage entirely on her own timeline. There was no drama, no fishing for sympathy, and no excuses made. Now in her 80s, she refuses to chase fleeting youth trends or seek validation from the modern press. She stands tall as living proof that genuine star power does not wrinkle. It simply endures. The fire inside her didn't fade away, it just became more disciplined. If that story shocked you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned, because the next story hits even harder. Number 4, Joan Van Ark. For decades, Joan Van Ark was the undisputed queen of primetime television. Throughout the 1980s, millions of Americans tuned in every single week to watch Knots Landing, and there she was, polished, powerful, and perfectly in command. She wasn't just famous, she felt like family. The American public trusted that face. Then Hollywood did exactly what it always does. It whispered in her ear, "Stay young forever or get ready to disappear." Joan listened to that toxic advice and paid a heavy price. Cosmetic surgeries that were intended to freeze the clock instead completely rewrote her facial features. The results horrified her fan base, fueled cruel tabloid headlines, and turned a beloved television icon into a digital punchline practically overnight. But here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Joan Van Ark did not fail Hollywood. Hollywood failed her. An industry that is pathologically obsessed with eternal youth pushed a brilliant actress into chasing a standard that is physically impossible to maintain. When the illusion finally cracked, the very same system that pressured her into the surgery stepped back and watched her take the fall alone. With time no longer chasing her down, Joan now lives a quiet life far removed from the cameras that once adored her and later judged her so harshly. There is no comeback tour planned, no apology interviews scheduled, just distance and hopefully some peace. Her story isn't about vanity, it is a tragic tale about fear. The paralysing terror of growing old, the gnawing anxiety of being discarded for a younger model, fear packaged and sold to us as beauty standards. Joan Van Ark transformed into the very warning label Tinseltown refused to read, a tragic monument to an industry that consumes its own. But if you want to talk about someone who flipped the script entirely, look no further. Coming in at number 5, the incomparable Shirley MacLaine. Shirley MacLaine was never the docile starlet the studio system desperately wanted her to be, and honestly, that rebellious streak is the precise reason she outlasted them all. While her contemporaries were busy chasing fleeting glamour and studio approval, Shirley was out there chasing the absolute truth. Sharp wit and whatever wild spiritual rabbit hole piqued her interest that particular week. She didn't just memorise lines and look pretty. She challenged the very medium she worked in. From the melancholy of The Apartment to the raw grit of Terms of Endearment, she delivered a razor-sharp humour wrapped in emotional precision, making the most difficult performances look like second nature. The executives in Hollywood frequently scratched their heads, having absolutely no idea how to handle a woman who asked that many difficult questions. She didn't just speak her mind, she broadcast it. This is a woman who championed reincarnation, extraterrestrial life, and brutal honesty, often casually dropping all 3 topics in a single press junket. In an era where the industry demanded silence compliance and painted on smiles, Shirley offered unsolicited opinions and devastating punchlines. As the calendar pages turned, she didn't vanish into obscurity or attempt a desperate, unrecognisable reinvention. She simply took a deliberate step back. There were no dramatic, tearful exits and certainly no pathetic attempts at a comeback. She embraced the ageing process exactly the way she lived her life, openly, loudly, and with a sceptical eyebrow permanently cocked at Hollywood's superficial nonsense. These days, she enjoys a quiet existence far removed from the flashing bulbs and red carpets. Her physical form may have been slowed by the march of time, but her intellect remains sharp enough to slice through glass. Shirley MacLaine stands as living proof that while fame is temporary and beauty evolves, intelligence, humour, and sheer guts age better than any surgical procedure ever could. If you have an appetite for stories that expose the unvarnished reality behind the velvet ropes, go ahead and smash that like button right now. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell because the secrets behind the next legend on our list might just leave you speechless. Landing at number 6, we have the European icon Claudia Cardinale. Unlike the desperate starlets of her time, Claudia Cardinale never felt the need to scream for attention. She dominated the screen simply by existing. During the absolute peak of European cinema's golden age, her allure wasn't the flashy manufactured product we see today. It was a confident, earthy and grounded beauty that was impossible to look away from. From the epic Once Upon a Time in the West to the aristocratic decay of the leopard, she didn't just participate in cinematic masterpieces. She was the anchor that held them to the ground. Hollywood came calling, of course, but Claudia never handed over the keys to her soul. While other actresses were scrambling for American approval, she chose Europe artistic depth and creative control. She was portraying complex, iron-willed women decades before it became a marketing trend, and she did it without asking a single man for permission. There were no manufactured scandals to boost ticket sales, no desperate rebranding efforts, just an undeniable, overwhelming presence. As the decades rolled on, her power didn't crumble. It merely settled into something deeper. She allowed herself to age in the public eye with a radical honesty, refusing to pretend that time was standing still. You saw no frozen Botoxed expressions or dramatic attempts to reverse the clock, just a woman brave enough to let her face display the map of a life fully lived. When news broke that Claudia Cardinale passed away in September 2026 at the age of 87, the world didn't just mourn a celebrity. It stood in honour of a completed, dignified legacy. She wasn't eulogised for fighting a losing battle against time or chasing the ghost of her youth. She was celebrated for consistently choosing artistic substance over hollow spectacle. In a business that is obsessed with noise and attention, Claudia Cardinale proved something truly radical. She showed us that sometimes the most powerful statement a woman can make is silence, and that silence echoes longer than any scream. Moving on to number 7, the mesmerising Anna Karina. Anna Karina was never engineered to be a Hollywood darling, and frankly, that was the entire point of her existence. Back in the 1960s, while American studios were busy polishing their stars into predictable plastic perfection, Anna drifted through the smoky haze of French cinema like a beautiful, unscripted interruption. She wasn't loud, she wasn't obvious. She possessed a magnetic quality that the camera lenses couldn't quite analyse or explain. As the definitive muse of the French New Wave, she did far more than act. She interrogated the very concept of filmmaking. In cult classics like Pierrot Le Faux and A Woman is a Woman, Anna mocked the rules of cinema, bent the narrative to her will and transformed vulnerability into an act of punk rock rebellion. Hollywood has always demanded total control. Anna demanded absolute freedom. It's not hard to guess who decided to walk away. She flat out refused the machinery of stardom, prioritising art over lucrative contracts and living outside the glare of the spotlight long before privacy became a luxury. No brand endorsements, no rebrandings, no desperate grasping for relevance. Just poetry, music, intellectual curiosity and a healthy distance from the toxicity of fame. When Anna Karina took her final bow in 2019 at 79, the world didn't lose a celebrity. It lost a specific feeling, a melancholic mood, a stark reminder that cinema is supposed to be fragile, strange and deeply human. Anna Karina's legacy proves something that Hollywood never quite grasped. Some stars don't fade away because they were never trying to shine for you in the first place. They were trying to mean something real. And now number 8, the intense Meg Foster. Meg Foster was never constructed to be America's sweetheart, and Hollywood absolutely despised her for it. From the moment she arrived, she carried an unsettling energy, a fierce intensity that refused to smile on command. Those legendary pale blue eyes didn't invite the audience in for a warm hug. They challenged you to a staring contest you were destined to lose. And if there is one thing big studios hate, it's being challenged. In the 1980s, Meg gravitated toward films like They Live and Masters of the Universe, frequently embodying women who felt dangerous, distant, or emotionally impenetrable. She wasn't cast to soften the edges of a scene or play the romantic prize. She was there to sharpen the blade. While other actresses were bullied into being likeable and approachable, Meg Foster was simply undeniable. As time marched on, Hollywood quietly shuffled her to the side. It wasn't because she lacked talent, she had that in spades, but because she refused to shrink herself to fit their mould. Aging didn't erase her impact, it simply stripped away the illusion. The roles became fewer, the spotlight dimmed, but her screen presence never begged to be preserved in amber. Today, Meg Foster stands as a stark reminder that Hollywood only celebrates being different when they can figure out how to put a price tag on it. She didn't just vanish into a cloud of tabloid gossip or suffer some tragic breakdown. Instead, she consciously removed herself from a toxic machine that realised it couldn't market what it couldn't manipulate. Meg Foster stands as a living testament to a harsh industry reality. Not every woman who leaves is forgotten by the masses. In fact, they are actively avoided, and honestly, holding that kind of space is a flex in itself. Let us move to number 9, the incomparable Shelley Long. Once upon a time, she was the absolute favourite voice in every living room in America. As the intellectual Diane Chambers on the massive hit Cheers, she wasn't just reading lines, she was delivering a masterclass in neurotic brilliance, blending sarcasm and highbrow chaos with impeccable comedic timing. While the bar was the setting, Shelley Long was the engine driving the jokes. She was the sophistication that made the punchlines land. And then she pulled a move that nobody saw coming. Right at the absolute peak of her stardom, she handed in her resignation. There was no public meltdown, no drug scandal, just a cold, calculated decision that left executives stunned. I mean, who in their right mind walks away from the highest-rated sitcom in television history on purpose? It turns out the person who leaves is someone terrified of being typecast as a barmaid for the rest of her life. The industry sat back and waited for her to come crawling back with regret. But they waited in vain. Shelley chose breathing room. She put massive distance between herself, the cameras, and the golden handcuffs of contracts. Sure, her movie career didn't shatter records like the pundits guessed, and the media tried to paint her as a failure. However, here is the plot twist they didn't expect. Shelley Long never bothered to fight that narrative or correct the record. As the years rolled on, she didn't try to claw her way back with reality TV or sell her old fame for nostalgia points. She embraced privacy, seeking comfort in a quiet life away from the noise. You don't see her on red carpets, and there are no desperate comeback tours. She is just a woman who made her money, made her point, and didn't feel the need to keep proving it to strangers. Shelley Long is a reminder that leaving the spotlight isn't always about failing. Sometimes people exit stage left because they have already won the game and value their peace of mind more than a round of applause. Moving on to number 10, the legendary Sophia Loren. Calling her a movie star feels like an understatement. She was a living, breathing myth. For decades, she was the global definition of Italian glamour, raw passion and grit, transforming a simple look into a headline and every movie role into a piece of cinema history. From two women to marriage, Italian style, she didn't just portray strong female characters, she wrote the blueprint for them. However, even legends are subject to the clock. While Hollywood likes to freeze its icons in black and white perfection, Sophia continued the human process of living. The aging process hasn't been entirely smooth, and health issues eventually came knocking at her door. A nasty fall recently served as a harsh wake-up call that even goddesses deal with gravity. Suddenly, the woman worshipped for her fiery strength looked human and fragile to the public eye. Yet the irony is thick here. Sophia Loren never actually lost her power. It just shifted shape. The curves may have softened with time. Her physical pace has certainly slowed down, but that aura is still there. She didn't disappear into the shadows or apologise for the crime of getting older. She took a step back with immense dignity, allowing her historical impact to scream louder than today's tabloid headlines ever could. Now, in her 90s, living a quiet existence in Switzerland, Sophia isn't desperate for relevance or likes on social media. She has absolutely nothing left to prove. She already took the trophy home. Her legacy isn't built on how she looks this afternoon, but on the fire she burned into the film industry forever. Sophia Loren teaches us a lesson Hollywood hates. True icons don't fade away, they endure, even when the spotlight finally learns to respect their privacy. Number 11 is the explosive Brigitte Bardot. She didn't just define what beauty looked like, she completely blew up the standard. Back in the 1950s and 60s, she was the face that launched 1,000 controversies, a walking symbol of sexual liberation and rebellion. With and God created woman. Bardot didn't just walk into the film industry, she shook the foundations until the old rules shattered. And then she did the impossible. At the very summit of her global influence, Brigitte Bardot essentially ghosted the world. There was no slow decline or tearful farewell special. She quit acting cold turkey and turned her back on the very people who worshipped her image. Hollywood gasped and Europe freaked out, but Bardot couldn't care less. She decided that fame was just noise and she wanted the truth. So she traded the glitz of red carpets for animal shelters, swapped scripts for hardcore activism and chose isolation over adoration. While the world obsessed over her fading look, she was busy fighting for the rights of voiceless animals with way more fire than she ever gave to a movie camera. Time marched on. The beauty changed and health became a concern. Today, deep in her 90s, Bardot lives like a recluse in Saint-Tropez, a million miles from the fantasy she used to be. The ultimate irony, she managed to outlive her sex symbol image by completely rejecting it. Brigitte Bardot proves a strange Hollywood paradox. Sometimes the most shocking thing a star can do isn't getting plastic surgery. It is walking out the door while everyone is still watching. Number 12 brings us to Tippi Hedren. Tippi never really planned on conquering the film industry. The industry hunted her down first. Discovered by the legendary Alfred Hitchcock, she was thrown straight into the deep end of cinematic danger with The Birds and Marnie. She was the perfect icy blonde on screen, unshakable and elegant. But off-screen, she was surviving a nightmare of control and obsession from a director who didn't know when to stop. While the audience enjoyed the suspense, Tippi was living through actual torture. Those were real birds, real terror, and there was zero computer-generated mercy involved. When the spotlight started to feel more like an interrogation lamp, she did something radical. She took her life back. Instead of begging for more roles, she walked away from the machinery that was trying to own her soul. Then came the plot twist that nobody in Los Angeles predicted. Tippi Hedren chose the company of lions over the company of producers. She established a massive wildlife sanctuary living among apex predators that were honest, dangerous, and ironically far less manipulative than the men in Hollywood. The fame slowly faded, but her purpose never did. Now in her 90s, Tippi lives in peace surrounded by her animals, letting her inner strength replace the need for a spotlight. Over the years, her stunning looks transformed into something far more powerful, sheer unyielding resilience. Her impact has grown way past the old movie reels, evolving into a crusade for survival and the ultimate power move of taking full command of her own narrative. While the Hollywood machine churns out shining celebrities by the dozen, it takes a special kind of internal strength to dictate the terms once the spotlight finally dims and that heavy curtain drops. If these twisted tales of stardom caught you off guard, make sure to smash that like button and join our community for more Daily Tea. We are dying to know which leading lady really stole the show for you in this breakdown. Go ahead and sound off with her name in the comments section right now. Tinseltown always sells the seductive fantasy of forever promising an eternity of glitz and glamour that rarely exists in the real world. But eventually the clock strikes midnight and the harsh reality hits hard. Yet these women refused to be erased from history. Instead, they evolved, made daring escapes, or simply survived a brutal industry that is clinically obsessed with eternal youth. A few left us completely stunned, others turned their backs on the fame game entirely, and some totally rewrote the Hollywood playbook. While 15 minutes of fame eventually burns out, true legends never die. If you found this deep dive shocking, do not forget to hit like, subscribe, and share the gossip with your circle. Also, we want to hear from you. Let us know which of these rollercoaster life stories really stuck with you long after the screen went black. Because never forget, lurking behind every single glossy, retouched photo is a dark, messy truth that the studios desperately tried to hide from the public eye.